It was another quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages, nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Radio Central, AM 830, WCRN. You can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. Today, behind the board in the glass, he's bringing it in. You'll be able to join the conversation for two-way talking conversation at 508-871-7000. As I broadcast from our palatial but not overly ostentatious studios here in Westboro, Massachusetts, high atop the Carberry Towers. You can also tune into the station on the TuneIn app. That's right, thousands of radio stations are there, so you can stream us and take us anywhere. But I suggest you tune into 8:30 a.m. But put it on that device. You want it there. Do me a favor, when you put in WCRN, see our logo, hit the like button. We know you're there. Then we're very easy to find. Now, I do stream the show from the studio on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Facebook, Twitter. We're on Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, Rumble page. Then you can always watch it being replayed on the new streaming channel, Torch TV. All right, so that's a lot to take in, a lot of ways to do it. Only see a couple people watching the streaming right now. So get over to Facebook, get over to Twitter, or X, I should say. I think tweet is now kind of the universal term for whenever you do anything on social media in a lot of ways. So here it is, December 5th, and New England, it's brisk now. It was nice to wake up. Ted, did you have snow? You come down from a higher elevation.
Yeah, I'm up.
So did you have to drive in it this morning?
Yeah, I come down from about 600 feet, and it's a sleigh ride all the way in. We had 3+ inches. It was a real treat. I love it.
Yeah. It was nice to watch. I worked from home for a couple hours this morning before I left, but always nice. I'd love to have that nice blanket of snow Christmas Eve day into Christmas morning. Then I'm okay with it. But after that. But let's take a look what's happening here on AM 830 WCRN, the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We got a lot to cover. And, the Middle East remains a hotspot of instability, with Israel's conflict in Gaza displacing nearly 3/4 of the local population. Humanitarian aid efforts are escalating alongside the debate over Israel's military actions and their implications for regional stability. However, the key here is on the horizon. Israel is looking forward to the return of Donald Trump to the White House in hopes for renewed stability and decisive leadership from the Oval Office. Trump has already issued a stern warning to Hamas and their backers, of course. Hey, release the hostages before his inauguration, or there will be hell to pay. This strong stance has reportedly alarmed these groups, signaling a potential shift in U.S. posture towards a firmer and more impactful approach. Trump's past policies in the region, including the Abraham Accords, demonstrated his ability to foster cooperation and reduce tensions. Israel and its allies anticipate that his leadership will reassert U.S. influence and deter adversaries from further aggression. No kidding, folks, right? Now, the coming months will test the resilience of all parties involved. With Trump poised to take office, his no-nonsense rhetoric and action-oriented strategy may improve the decisive push needed to stabilize the region, secure the hostages, and reestablish a more balanced order in the Middle East. Meanwhile, back here, the 2024 transition team is making waves with high-profile nominations. Now, Pete Hegseth has been tapped initially for Secretary of Defense. He's coming up against some pushback. Now there's this story about the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Rakesh Patel is being considered for National Security Advisor. These picks were sparking debates about the administration's direction and priorities. So we'll unpack some of these choices now. Pete Hegseth's nomination as part of Donald Trump's administration transition team. The controversy there, NBC reporting anonymous accusations against him. Now, these claims, however, lack substantiation and appear to be another example of media narratives targeting individuals associated with the former and soon-to-be future president. Hegseth, a veteran and outspoken advocate for military issues and conservative values, has faced such media scrutiny before, often without evidence to support the claims. Now, critics of the coverage point out that the media outlets have largely ignored testimonials from those who have worked alongside Hegseth. Colleagues and acquaintances describe him as a stand-up individual with a strong commitment to serving the country. His leadership within veterans advocacy organizations like Concerned Veterans for America and his service in the Army National Guard have earned him respect among his peers, and these attributes reflect his integrity and dedication, undermining the credibility of vague and anonymous accusations. But we've gotten used to the mainstream media not really being journalists so much as activists at this point. And the attacks on Hegseth also highlight a broader issue, a media culture more focused on undermining conservative figures than engaging with substantive discussions about their qualifications and ideas. Instead of amplifying baseless accusations, outlets should examine Hegseth's track record and the potential value he brings to a Trump administration seeking to enact sweeping reforms. And let's face it, that is what Trump is doing here. If you look at his picks, yes, they are all America first, on board with that philosophy. He is putting people in these positions that he knows will pick the people that they need to pick. So when the president picks these positions and fill these positions, both those that are confirmed and non-confirmed, those individuals also fill many positions in that agency or in that department. So there's this ripple cascading effect that's going to take place for the people who are going to actually be in the head of, or at the head or at the management level of the bureaucracy. And that's what has to change. Trump's choice in Hegseth underscores his prioritization of individuals who align with his America First philosophy and who possess firsthand experience addressing key policy issues. Now, this decision signals the administration's commitment to military and veteran issues, something Hegseth has championed for years. The media's failure to provide balanced coverage does not go away from public disclosure, further eroding trust in journalism and diminishing the contributions, those generally working to improve the nation. Now, Hunter Biden's situation with the controversial pardon, President Biden's pardon of his son Hunter continues to reverberate throughout Washington. Now, critics argue the move undermines public trust and exposes perceived biases within the DOJ. Meanwhile, Trump's legal team is leveraging this development in their latest motion to dismiss charges against the former president. Could this be a turning point in America's justice system? We got to break that down. Joe Biden, during his announcement of pardoning his son, talked about the political targeting and corruption in the Justice Department, his Justice Department. Now, he could have negated this a little bit if he pardoned Trump at the same time to say, I'm clearing the slate starting at over, just everything over. But I've argued this. I don't want Donald Trump to get a pardon. I want these cases to fall apart under the fact that they're meritless. And the legal theories have never been tried, proven, and they won't withstand an appeal. The Biden administration end-of-term flurry of pardons has sparked considerable debate and, of course, speculation. The focus on politicians, media figures, and other high-profile individuals raises questions about why such a pardon is needed. Think about that. If you want to pardon all these people before you leave office, what are you telling us? That they've been doing illegal activity for the last 4 years? You don't need a pardon if you haven't broken the law or committed a crime. This rush has prompted observers to ask whether these individuals have engaged in activities that require these legal absolution. If their actions were above board, what exactly needs forgiving here, folks? Critics, especially from conservative circles, argue that this strategy reflects an acknowledgement of questionable activities over the past 4 years. They suggest that these pardons are designed to shield individuals from potential legal challenges under a new administration. By casting a wide net of preemptive pardons, the Biden team may be signaling its anticipation of scrutiny. especially in light of controversies such as Hunter's legal issues and broader allegations of partisan misuse of government agencies. In contrast that with Donald Trump's stance on governance and accountability, Trump has consistently denied intentions to use federal agencies like the DOJ or FBI for lawfare. He's emphasizing his focus on success and his vision to make America great again. He publicly stated that his best revenge against critics is not through retaliation, but actually by achieving tangible victories that benefit the nation. Success is his revenge. This situation highlights a broader philosophical divide between the outgoing administration's approach to shielding allies and the incoming administration's stated commitment to impartial governance. The public narrative around these pardons will likely remain a flashpoint in the ongoing political discourse. Hey, meanwhile, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has delivered a decisive blow to several West Coast states attempting to halt federal deportation orders for illegal immigrants. This ruling reinforces federal authority over immigration and raises questions about the balance of power between state and federal governments. We'll explore that a little bit more because there is the constitutional supremacy clause there that we have to deal with. And the Supreme Court of the United States recently heard arguments addressing the controversial issue of transgender surgeries for minors. Central to the debate is the question of whether minors who cannot legally enter the contracts or consent to most medical treatments without parental approval should have access to irreversible medical interventions, including surgeries, hormone therapies, aimed at gender transition. Now, there are core legal and ethical issues here, and we'll get into it more after the break here, but parents' consent and decision-making, medical reversibility and mental health, international trends, that the court's considering that and looking at that. So what are those implications? We'll take a look at that. But what we got to do right now is get ready to take our first break here in the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. You can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. What say you? Jump in on any of these issues I've introduced for today's discussion. If you have something else on your mind that you want to jump in, because this is the last day for, actually it's not. Now tomorrow at 1 o'clock, you'll have the Carr Brothers, but I'll be filling in for Mike Wade on Saturday, 8 to 11, folks. 508-871-7000. We'll be back in 2 and 10, folks.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own, but MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Polar Park is the place to play, so treat yourself to a private suite at the best ballpark in AAA. Suite rentals are the best way to enjoy a fully catered and climate-controlled experience at the park. Whether you choose to watch the game from inside of the suite or out in your seats, it's the ultimate experience for a special occasion. Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to reserve your suite today.
Imagine a retirement where you're free to pursue your passions, confident in your financial decisions and positions. A prosperous future starts with the right guidance. Visit wealthandwisdom65.com. That's wealthandwisdom65.com.
Advisory services offered by Optimus Wealth Management Group, Incorporated. Insurance services offered by the Optimus Group, LLC, an affiliated company. The information contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services or insurance products to any residents of any state other than the state of Massachusetts or where otherwise legally permitted.
All right, folks. So welcome back to the second segment of the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. You can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. As I said, tomorrow, Friday is the only day I don't do at 1 o'clock, Monday through Thursday at 1. Friday is the Car Brothers come in for the Car Brothers Auto Service, Harborough Sales and Service. It's a great show, but I will be sitting in for Mike Wade Saturday morning for Conservatively Speaking. You know, we went on the air with that show, I think, in 2007. So it has a lot of history here. We're up there in the years, but God, Mike in his retirement, Teddy's all over the place. He's in Alaska at one point, and then he's in Scotland or something. Good for him. So I want to continue my thought on this because the Supreme Court, so they were hearing these arguments addressing the controversial issue of this transgender surgeries for minors. Now, central to the debate here is the question of whether the minors, who cannot legally enter into contracts, by the way, under 18 in any other arena, right? You can't sign for a car. You can't sign for a loan. You don't have a legal standing. You are a minor. You can't get aspirin. You can't have any medical treatment, much less a surgery done to you without parental consent when you're a minor. So they can't enter into these contracts, can't do this medical treatment without consent and without parental approval. And should they have access to irreversible medical interventions, including surgeries, hormone therapies aimed at gender transition? So the core legal and ethical issue that we're dealing with here is a parental consent and decision making. Opponents argue that minors lack the maturity to make significant decisions independently and that parental involvement is crucial. Plus, what is this attack on parents? Because if you don't, it seems if you don't parent your children the way we think, feel, and look at it, then we have to take that ability away, or we have to take the children away from you. If you look at some of these proposed laws and laws that are passing in some of these blue states, it's absolutely out of control. The procedures in question carry lifelong consequences, raising concerns about whether minors can fully comprehend these implications. Think about that. And if you start to remove certain body parts, you can trigger menopause. They're irreversible. They may never, ever be able to have children or produce children. Plus, you have the medical reversibility in mental health. Now, critics cite recent studies suggesting that these interventions often fail to improve mental health outcomes. Moreover, the irreversible nature of the surgeries and long-term effects of hormone therapies heightens the stakes. Regret among individuals who transition as minors and later seek detransition has become a growing concern, prompting calls for caution. Now, you got to remember, always follow the money too, folks. And I think it's going to take some class action suits and some of these doctors. First of all, they take the oath, do no harm. But if you go on this path, even if you don't go on the path as a minor, let's put a pin in that for a second. Even if you're of legal age and you make this decision, and the argument's always it's great for their mental health. The studies are now showing that are now coming out, and there's a story in here about a researcher who refused to publish it because it didn't work out the way she wanted it. Right? It proved her whole stance wrong, and she didn't want to publish it, saying I didn't want it to be weaponized. But this is how science works: peer review, right? And studies, and it's found that there is no evidence at all that this has lessened, doing the transition has lessened mental or lessened the problem of mental health, much less suicides or thoughts of suicide. So this is just ridiculous that they're considering this. This is a decision that has to be made by a matured brain, by a grown adult. You don't let your children even pick out their own clothes to a certain age. We don't let them drive till a certain age. Don't let them vote, buy alcohol. At 18, we'll send them off to war and give them a gun. That's not a problem because that's been like that forever. But you're talking about, it's not just doing it at a minor age, folks. It's doing it around the parents, behind their back, without consent. So there is major call here for concern. Ted, you want to jump in on that?
Well, this is what you'd call a classic result. It started with the NEA. It started with the school systems. And then children were told, well, if you don't want to do what your parents tell you, come on to school and we'll help you. And now it's reached this point. This is the result of this kind of political policy.
You know, when I was a kid, if you were an adult who spoke to children about their sexuality or sex at all and told them it's between you and me, you don't have to tell your parents. We had words for those people, and they weren't very well liked, and it wasn't accepted. It was absolutely not tolerated. Now, we also have the international trends. Countries like Sweden, Finland, in the United Kingdom, historically leaders in gender-affirming care, have recently reversed or slowed their approaches. They now emphasize psychotherapy and other non-invasive treatments over surgeries for minors. And they're citing insufficient evidence of long-term benefits and potential harm. That's the other thing about this. But going back to my thought, so you go into this, you're talking about, as a doctor or the medical industry, you're putting somebody on medications that they have to take for the rest of their lives. So when somebody walks into your office and they start talking about this procedure and they think they need it, instead of leaning towards psychotherapy and analyzing it and showing that that isn't going to solve the deeper issues that you have, they look at, oh my God, this is hundreds of thousands. And if they have a good long life ahead of them, millions of dollars in billing, both in the medications that they have to take once you start these and the doctor visits. It's a walking checkbook when they walk in. So follow the money on that. Now that with the LPGA is coming out, and this is a big reversal, and I think that a lot of this insanity is going to evaporate come the 20th of January. But now they're saying on the golf tour, look, if you went through puberty as a man, you were a boy to a man, you went through puberty, you cannot play in the ladies golf tournament thing. You can't play there as a female because you've already had the benefits of being a male, biologically, that is. Longer reach, more muscle mass, bigger lungs, bigger heart. You can drive the ball naturally further. It's just, these are the averages, folks. And I think it was 70 members of the LGPA. What is it? Ladies Golf Professional LGPA. For Ladies Golf Professional Association signed saying, we don't want this. So you might be seeing more and more of this. So what are the implications? Well, the case could set a precedence of how such treatments are regulated across the United States. Advocates for gender-affirming care argue these interventions are critical for well-being of transgender youth. Conversely, critics highlight the duty of the care to prevent harm, safeguard minors from making decisions that they may regret. And there are a lot of people, now that some time is starting to pass here, who are coming out and they regret it and they're trying to detransition, and that's not as easy as it was to do the transgender in the first place. So the Supreme Court's ruling, expecting next year, right? They hear the cases that usually come out in June, could reshape the landscape of gender-related healthcare, potentially aligning the U.S. more closely with the cautious approach adopted by other countries. This case underscores the broader debate over medical ethics, parental rights, and the role of government in healthcare decisions for minors. Speaking of healthcare, so the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson has taken a sinister turn as the detectives discover the chilling words deny, defend, and depose etched on bullet casings at the crime scene, which is interesting because before obviously police always have much more information and more details than you're ever going to see reported in the media for obvious reasons. They're not tipping their hand. They always hold back information. This is how they can determine. And there are people who confess to crimes because they want the attention and they have nothing to do with it. And they have to be able to weed these people out. Plus, they don't want to publicize all of the information and evidence that they have from a crime scene, obviously. But as soon as something happens, right, all these experts jump onto TV and radio and start talking about it. Now, we didn't know this initially, and when we were seeing what looked like a delay or a cycling, that he was re-clearing the chamber, and some people thought that he was collecting the casings, but he wasn't. So they did find casings, and apparently a live round too, but the words deny, defend, and depose etched on the bullet casings at the crime scene.
Could you say those three words again, please?
Deny, defend, and depose.
That's actually the title.
It is a title of a book about the healthcare
industry
denying your claims. And this United Healthcare has the highest rate of denials. Is $80 billion in profits, and they turn most of their cases or turn down the claims. So those words, now, is it a red herring? Is it trying to send us in the wrong direction here? I don't know. But these phrases may reference industry tactics of rejecting claims, potentially hinting at a motive. And the attack, described as targeted and calculated, occurred outside a Midtown Manhattan hotel where Thompson was attending an investors conference from Minnesota. He was out here for a few days, came out on Monday. The masked gunman fled towards Central Park on a city bike and remains at large. Now, authorities have issued a $10,000 reward for information. They're all over the place, the posters and so forth. But the thing here is the city, and there's a difference between an e-bike. You can buy an e-bike, but the difference there is with these city bikes, you have to get those with a credit card, which of course you can also get the prepaid and so forth. But there's a lot more information. We got to watch this. There's a much more sinister thing going on here. Whether I know everybody said it looked like a professional hit. It was a hit. I'm not so sure how professional this Jamoke is. Hey, we got to take our mid-show break here in the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Stick with us, folks. We'll be back in 2 and 10.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. Here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. So the accumulation that we had this morning, we could see a little bit more with a few scattered snow squalls this afternoon. Most of the roads should dry out because it's going to be so windy this afternoon, but anything that is still snowy or slushy as we get into the evening hours, that will refreeze overnight tonight. Tomorrow's going to be bitterly cold and breezy. We've got some pretty strong winds gusting up to 50 miles per hour both tonight and tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. You can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. As far as this United Healthcare, and let's face it, it's a hit job. I don't know if this is the guy that came out of Soldier of Fortune or on the dark web, or just somebody who, if this is authentic, these words etched in the shells, it could be for real, a very disgruntled type of person, not to mention the fact that the company is under investigation by the DOJ and Securities Commission, and including him, Thompson. So was this clearing the slate for somebody? Was he going to work for immunity on Flip? There's a lot of questions aren't answered, and they're not going to necessarily be talked about in the news. So you're going to get a lot of speculation, and you're going to have a lot of retired inspectors and detectives and investigators who are going to go on and talk about all kinds of things and the way he moved and so forth. And he may have screwed up by letting himself get on the camera at Starbucks and throwing away a bottle or a can. Also, did he use gloves and protection the entire process, loading the bullets? A lot of times they forget the fact that fingerprints or DNA on the shells when they loaded these into the clip and so forth. So, and the glasses, he didn't. Yeah, he didn't wear the glasses. Professionals would have wore glasses. And not so much. What it does, the glasses on your face makes it harder for facial recognition to make the points that it needs to make to scan you. So without the glasses on, because then it can't do it. Although they're pretty sophisticated now to be able to work with the glasses. But the point is, he had the hoodie on, he had the mask or the I guess scarf or something, but it was down at the Starbucks. He had relaxed a little bit. And they've got him. They were able to back the cameras up. Now, the other data point that they're probably going to have is when he went into Central Park, there's a lot of cameras going in and out of Central Park. Not a lot in there, but he clearly had this set up. Now, what I found interesting was the woman in kind of the doorway drinking a cup of coffee watches him literally in front of her take out a weapon. And there's something odd about the gun, too, but it clearly had a silencer. And he may have done his own rounds to lessen the noise. And she just kind of walks away quickly with her coffee, right? She doesn't, it was probably $9 cup of coffee, right, in Manhattan. So she doesn't throw the coffee. She just goes this way. But there was this car service that Thompson got out of. That car is still sitting there. The lights are on. The car's running. The driver's still there. He doesn't accelerate. He doesn't get out of there. The gunman actually crosses in front of the service car, and into the alley. It's just there's a lot of weird things in there, but they'll get to it. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Ken has been waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you? There we got Ken. Did we lose him or?
Ask him to hold on. I'll reset the stack.
All right, Ken, hold on. I think it's just a phone glitch there that we'll take care of. All right, folks, 508-871-TED is going to check into, I guess, the glitch on that. Sometimes it happens. We'll work on getting that fixed across the board. Meanwhile, Daniel Penny is awaiting his verdict, or at least he was as I got ready to come on air. And in this case of Daniel Penny, he's a former Marine, and you all know this by now, but accused of manslaughter. And actually, there's the charges range in there, but manslaughter in the subway death of Jordan Neely. They're in deliberation, or at least they were when I was heading into the studio a little while ago, as new civil lawsuits also add further complexity. Neely's father, Andre Zachary, he's filed a lawsuit against Penny, alleging negligent conduct, assault, and battery in connection with Neely's death. Now, this all happened on a very crowded New York City subway train, so you're many feet under the ground in a steel tube with no exit, and you don't know who you're going to end up in there with. And I go to New York on a regular basis. I do not go on the subway. I use Uber or I'm driving myself, and I wouldn't want to have to do that. Even in daylight, I don't know if I'd be cool for that. But he's filing this lawsuit in connection with Neely's death, and the incident occurred when Penny restrained Neely in a chokehold, which is a move that is taught in self-defense classes. It's taught in the military. The carotid artery, you pressure on there. The longer you put pressure, the longer they go out, meaning pass out from lack of oxygen, but it doesn't die. Now, we also had, well, we'll get into the examination and the cross-examination, because it's saying the cause of death wasn't actually Penny. It was the K stuff, the make-believe weed he had in his system and the other drugs, and he died as a combination of that, not from the chokehold. That's something the jury has to weed out and decide what the deal is there based on the testimony. And what the questions they were asking are pretty interesting. And they wanted a couple of things reread to them. Is Ken back on? Do we have him? Ken, are you there? Ken, we got you back? We'll try that again, Ken. Hold on. Now, so this occurred. He restrained Neely in the chokehold, they say, for 6 minutes after Neely reportedly experienced a mental health episode, shouted threats, and he frightened the passengers. In the testimony, these passengers are going to tell you something. They were honestly and authentically scared. And it was a woman with her small child there. There were people who were regular. They said, look, I've never been this afraid on the subway before. And when this happened, I said this to you guys. If you're getting a hardcore New Yorker scared and worried, how bad is it, considering what they see on a daily basis? So where's the bar on Neely's behavior? I mean, he was also adding, on top of the threats, he's saying, I don't care, I'm not afraid, I will go back to prison. So you have someone obviously in a mental episode breakdown here who seems to be prone to violence. Now, no, including Penny, nobody knows this guy's background. The fact that he's been on the New York City Police's watch list and that he's been taken into custody, he's been committed to mental health institute. I mean, they don't know this. Can you please call back so that you can come back into the system fresh? 508-871-7000. So Penny's defense team argues that Neely's death resulted from a combination of factors, including his schizophrenia, substance use, genetic conditions, and the physical altercation. Penny himself maintains that he acted to protect others, claiming he did not intend to harm Neely and applied a technique learned in the Marine Corps. And it is. It's taught in the Corps, and it's meant to disable but not kill, but to put somebody to sleep. It's also the technique that's used and when they have to abduct somebody. Okay. So if they were going to have to snatch somebody off, it's usually a 3-man team, and one of them's job is to come up from the back with the arm around the throat, applying pressure to the carotid artery, cutting off oxygen, and passing them out. So the prosecution has painted a different picture, arguing that Penny attacked recklessly and went beyond reasonable measures to ensure safety. Now, the jury has been closely reviewing these key pieces of evidence, including body cam footage of the first responders and Penny's videotaped interrogation, where he expressed his intention to prevent harm rather than to cause injury. And remember, during that investigation or that interview, which they did at the scene, then they asked him to come down, and then they continued for hours to talk to him. And at the end of multiple hours and just a very long deep dive into this, and initially Penny not knowing that Neely died, So when they're initially talking to him, the detectives are talking to him, he doesn't know the guy has expired. And at the end of all this, in that moment, in that time, the detectives who are hardcore detectives, and let's face it, New York City, for all whatever issues, is one of the best police departments in the country, certainly on the planet. And they determined there was not a criminal act here, that he acted in defense, as you can, defense of one or others. You're allowed to step into the shoes of someone else if they are unable to defend themselves. And he's a Marine, which basically exists for the purpose of protecting those weaker or unable to protect themselves. That's pretty much a Marine. So they were convinced, so they were satisfied there was no intended crime here, that this was just horrific accident. And then the genius over there, Alvin Bragg, gets a couple marches and protests, and of course, everything has to be about race. This is the other part of this. Ken, is he there yet? Does this come back on? No? Maybe we'll hang that up and try back, Ken, on another thing. So let me drop that call and then just call back. And my stack is reconnecting. So anyway, back to this. It's I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. So the point is that step into the defense of others. You're allowed to do that and protect. And he had no intention here. And Bragg, and this is another thing, the under like lying thing on this is as if it was a racial component. And out of the three men that physically put hands on Neely and held him down, it was Penny, a tall, very white former Marine, or Marine, once a Marine, always a Marine, and the other two gentlemen was a black and Hispanic guy. So brown and black guy are also involved in this. No charges there. And if it was reversed, and if Penny was the one who was threatening and Neely was the one, would Alvin Bragg press charges? In my opinion, no, he wouldn't, because Alvin Bragg has demonstrated time and time again he's just racist. He looks at everything through the prism of race, and he's trying to impose race here when it's not an issue. In all of the witnesses, none of them felt there was a racial component in here, but people have got stirred up about this. The civil lawsuit filed by Zachary adds another layer of tension, demanding unspecified damages exceeding the jurisdictional limits of the lower courts, by the way. So this legal move underscores the profound impact of the case, not only on the individuals directly involved, but also on the broader social debate here about public safety, mental health crisis, and the responsibilities of bystanders in volatile situations. And that's going to have a play here for how people are going to look at this in the future. And will it cause people, or men or women, to hesitate to step in and intervene when somebody's in trouble? What say you? 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. I hope 508-871-7000. All right, folks. We're going to take our break here. We'll come back for the fourth and final segment on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Back in 2 and 10.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Those things we most cherish are all put at risk through the improper disposal of mercury in everyday items. Fluorescent lamps, thermometers, thermostats all contain mercury. Mercury Recovery Program is designed to assist your community in the safe disposal of this heavy metal. For more information about where to dispose of these products, contact your local Board of Health, Department of Public Works, or visit our website at keepmercuryfromrising.org. Working together, we can keep our environment safe.
Attention all contractors. The Massachusetts Mercury Management Act makes it illegal to improperly dispose of old thermostats in the trash. They contain mercury that can be harmful to human health and the environment. Building and HVAC contractors, plumbers, and electricians, please properly dispose of all mercury thermostats. Contact your local health or public works department for information on where to safely dispose of thermostats in your community. Visit online, keepmercuryfromrising.org for details. Brought to you by Win Waste Innovations. Performance for the planet.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Let's try it again. Ken, what say you?
Hi, Joe.
There we go. All right. Well, thanks for calling, Ken. We're out of time. What's happening, Ken?
Well, the Supreme Court hearing was quite revealing.
Oh, my goodness. When she compared it to aspirin or interracial marriage, like, I don't understand some of the thought process there.
Yeah, the one that really sticks out is I guess KDJ is the initials we have. Brown Jackson, comparing it to interracial marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And, not 99 out of 100 people, you bring up the topic and they would be rolling their eyes. But you just have to realize the leadership of the left is totally consumed by identity. And anything and everything that falls under that category in any which way, they have to follow the religious beliefs that fall under that group. And they're captivated by the group, and they can't divert at all. And so any sense of logic, the switch is turned off. And they say the most inane things. And here's another example. Apparently there was a left media person that was criticizing Riley Gaines for commenting on yesterday's testimony, saying that how dare she criticize KDJ? Why, she doesn't have any degrees. She doesn't know anything.
Yeah. Well, they're sitting there doing the same thing. Yeah. Look, I again, when I see people injecting race as part of their point and argument, from that, after that point, I hear wah 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 wah. It's just you've lost the credibility because you're not even talking about the issues that are in front of us. It's not there. I mean, I just lost a lot of admiration and respect for Captain Kirk the other day because he was on Bill Maher. Did you see this?
No, I didn't.
So William Shatner goes on, and he's something like 93. I mean, this guy, he's up there. God bless him. He's still, but he gets on, Maher's on the election, and they're talking about the fact that, of course, she lost. And Bill Maher says, I don't understand. Excuse me. William Shatner saying, I don't understand. And he's going, she had a lot of the characteristics of a winning candidate and so forth. And Bill Maher's looking at him like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, she was a woman and she's black. And even Bill Maher's like, well, those are identity politics. They're not characteristics. They're not reasons to vote for her. And he's like, I don't understand it. And I'm like, wow, so Captain Kirk just, you know what I'm saying? He's coming. I thought he was supposed to be from the 23rd century or where we, didn't see color and gender. It was crazy. Ken?
It's just another example of mental degradation.
Yeah, and the other thing is, remember, folks, when actors are telling you what they think, remember their job is to read what other people write, right? You all the time you see them, and you get this air of this character in the persona you have. It's been created by an author somewhere, and they're just portraying this. And the worst thing I think that they can do, and I think Dolly Parton, Reba McEntire, there are a few people out there Shaquille O'Neal, who said, conservatives, Republicans, they buy sneakers too. They buy concert tickets too. They do, and they get it. So they keep their politics to themselves, and that's not why you're famous. But anyway, I was very disappointed in Captain Kirk.
Well, there's a word for it. It's called phantasmagorical.
Phantasmagorical. So yeah, again, Ken, what's your take? Did you watch any or listen to some of the questioning in the debate at SCOTUS?
No, I maybe by this weekend, if there's a podcast that has the audio, I might catch a little bit of it. But it just points out that the left has made themselves so vulnerable. It's becoming so obvious to people, and so now you have the non-credentialed people have figured it all out.
Yeah,
because they never buy on to only credentialed people should be listened to. I think the credentialed people are going to start, because part of them are going to be embarrassed by the fact that most of the public is laughing at them. So I see a lot of tide turning with what we're experiencing, whether it be the last month or so of the campaign and then the results.
Yeah.
Things are changing so fast that, so for instance, let's say you work for a big company. Well, I've done that. And your company has had DEI. Well, a lot of them are abandoning it fast. So the people who just like, okay, I got to go along with this because, that's where my bread is buttered. They're like, man, this was ridiculous. I'm going the other way. So don't be surprised if there's a lot of surge towards the right, and the senators have to realize that in the context of who Trump is nominating, and get on train before it's too late.
Well, like I think I mentioned it earlier in this show, or it might have been yesterday, is that the Trump is coming in on this delayed second term, and the first term educated him big time because he didn't realize that he was loading his administration up with deep state people or just bureaucratic, right? People who have been there so long. And this is the scariest thing I can think of when it comes to this stuff, Ken, is these are people who live by the attitude or have the attitude that presidents come and go. We really run the government. In other words, they forget that their existence in that job, their capacity, is to do the will of the people. And the will of the people is demonstrated to them by who is in the Oval, because that's who the country picked. And the policies that person wants on, who's sitting in the Oval, is how they're going to run the government. And you as the bureaucrat needs to do that. I mean, I remember the first term for Trump, that these embassies, and a buddy of mine who's still active in the State Department at that time, these embassies around the world weren't even changing the picture. They automatically, they changed the picture of the president in the lobby and in their offices. It took almost 2 years for these embassies to put Trump's picture up because they just didn't want it. They felt that they actually run the government. So this ripple effect that he knows. So he's had the first term, then he had the 4 years under the Biden administration. Trump didn't stop. He continued being on top of the issue, still talking to people. Look at how much he's doing as president-elect. And now he's coming in hot, and I'm talking hot. And he's absolutely, it's a Trump train. And he's picking people who are absolutely on board with America First policies, who's absolutely on board for cleaning up the swamp and cutting waste and cut spending and waste. And they're going to put the people in the departments and agencies they're heading up with the same type of people. And that's what is just scaring the bejesus out of the people there. And when you got Trump saying, why do we have to have all this concentrated power in D.C.? You got Kash Patel who's saying he's going to shut down the Hoover building and send those 7,000 federal agents out into the country to actually be cops and do their job. When you got Secretary of Interior, EPA, why is the Department of Interior in DC? Why is the EPA have to be there? Why, they can be scattered throughout the country. And now we've got this issue of 80% of the offices are being unused. right? And we've got federal employees who haven't been to the office, they haven't been to work in years. And then they're getting this whole thing of we don't want to have to come back. I hope. Now, I know the Doge doesn't really have power, but that's not what Trump put him there for. He put him there to identify the problems, right? Trump put them there to identify the waste, identify where we can cut, what agencies can we just do away. We have 440, and the number isn't even there, Ken. We're not sure if it's 430 or 440 agencies, but Elon Musk is saying we can do it in 99, and he did it with Twitter. So that's that. This is going to be a fun 4 years, but I'm going to tell you the next 2 years is going to really be the roller coaster.
In closing, McConnell has to be shown that you don't have power like you did, or you think you did. He has the cognitive abilities even less than Biden, and he still thinks he's flexing control over senators. So obviously there's some money involved, and that has to be sorted out, or the Republican Party is going to be harmed by his option.
Well, I think you agree, and all of us kind of agree. The Republican Party has been remade into Trump's vision here, and I think even the older Republicans and old style are finding it. Thank you for the call, Ken. Finding it very hard to function, and they need to get up to it. But here's the final thought on this before we get to go, folks, is that he's got 2 years, because tradition and the norm is whatever party goes into the Oval often loses Congress, or at least a chamber, in the midterms. And he's got 2 years, even with the very small majority in the House and healthy majority. It's okay majority in the Senate. But the point is, he's got 2 years to really make a difference, to draw the contrast between the Biden-Harris administration and the second Trump administration. And he knows, because he can't run again, so he knows he's got to get this going, keep control of both chambers of Congress, so that whether it's J.D. Vance or Ron DeSantis, whoever emerges as the nominee for 28, is coming as the incumbent party that is absolutely giving us an America that is so much better off than we are today. And that's all if they do a great job, and if Trump does what he did in the first, barring another world pandemic or World War III, which hopefully he can put a stop to, because we're already in World War III. If you don't know that yet, it already started. Now the question is, can Trump end it and curb it before we're too far in and something serious really happens? But we got to wrap up the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830, WCRN Radio Central, the Carr Brothers at 1 o'clock tomorrow. But I'll be back for Mike Wade Saturday morning, 8 a.m. right here at Radio Central, AM 830, WCRN. All right, folks, you have a great night and great weekend. But I'll talk to you in the weekend. Join me here on the radio. Joe out.